Yes, good old TJ.
But next up, keeping with the Roman theme, we have Caesar.
Hail Caesar!
A.
Really good. Really good.
I mean, I was gonna put him at A. I don't think he's on the level of the Artorias.
Really? Even with, well, he is single target damage, isn't he?
Right? Yeah, he's single target damage. His first skill is military tactics. Yes. His second skill is charisma. Yes. And his third skill is a targetable 40% crit damage. So, like, his skills aren't bad, but like he's lacking the necessary boost to really like push him over into like really broken levels. Like, yes, he's a perma 3-star, so you're gonna get the copies of him. He has the NP strengthening, which boosts his single target to the highest quick scaling, which is ridiculous.
He's an A+,
on top of the buff that he has, which gives him a technically a 50% attack up, right? Which is really strong and really good. But like, he's just missing, like, I don't know, NP gain rate or a defense up, something to make it so that he's not just this glass cannon.
That buff they gave him.
It was strong.
The fact that he has the potential to out damage Okita, which hurt my goddamn soul. Like, oh.
That hurt my goddamn soul. Let me fucking tell you.
It's like, why you do my girl like this? Next, Saber. Dion. A different style of Saber this time around.
I would say B or C.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was middling between. Because they're a defensive base. They're tank base.
I wonder how long ago the buff was.
He's flat
I think you guys talking about that in the chat.
He's not meant to do damage. He's there to draw aggro. He's there to make it so that attention's on him. You look at him, which he does like a really good job at. But like,
there aren't that many tanks in this game in general. It's
like we have some really, really, really good tanks. Two of them that come to mind that when we eventually get to them, I'll make riff up.
For sure.
I want to go with B because he does everything you kind of need to do as a tank, right? He has an evade, and the evade also gives him a 3-turn defense up, right? So you
look at him. He takes all the damage.
Guaranteed, my tank will take no damage. And on top of that, all the damage my tank will take afterwards will be mitigated. Right? He then has a debuff removal on himself, right? So if he gets targeted, but instead of getting attacked, he gets debuffed, he has a cleanse, as well as a debuff.
So he's a mid-tank
afterwards, right? So it makes it even harder. So following that, he then has his Noble Phantasm, which also is very stall-worthy, right?
Yep.
Lowers the attack, lowers the defense, and has a chance to charm.
Top of that, him being permanent and one of the free 4-stars you can get at the beginning of the game, there's a high chance that you have him or can get him. Or her, sorry, they can be whatever gender you want them to be. With sad backstory on that, by the way. But anyway, next, Saber! Next up, this is easy.
Yeah, he got everything defensively.
There you go. Saber Liz. What the hell are you doing?
You look at the third skill, and you're like, fuck.
Ruins everything you're trying to do.
you wanna talk about a gameplay loop that fights you every step of the way? That's this skill. You know? This skill is the type of skill that will gut punch you and then ask if you want another.
This is also like the literal manifestation of that one bicycle meme when you put the stick in your own wheel. It's like, oh!
Dang, she's that trash?
Like Fergus!
C.
Rock. You are so average. You're just very, very, very average Saber.
There's not really like a lot to talk about with Fergus. He's just really
Next, Saber! Alright, next up.
A double gut punch.
Saber.
The second for free.
I'd put her at a B.
That's what I was at. Her demerits, which people seem to be hyper focused on. Oh man. Demerits, that means servant auto bad. Depending on the demerit, that's not the case. He's also summer servant too, summer variant. This summer servant is definitely just usually are really good. There's another summer servant that we're talking about next time, which is clearly the worst of all summer servers in my opinion.
One of the worst units in this game.
Yeah,
They ain't even talk about my boy Fergus.
Fine. She's a good unit, and she's adorable. My bias would probably maybe stick her up a little higher, but I know it averages out by the fact I know she's not that good. She's not.
My bias would be put her lower. I don't like Fran.
I understand why.
Like I don't like Fran, but she actually like objectively is rather good. Like yes, she has the demerit where she lowers her NP gauge by 10% to get a 80% NP charge rate. Like, okay, you really gonna be upset about that? A 3-turn 80%? Okay, guys. Right, she has an AoE buff removal on her second skill while also being an attack down, right? And then her third skill is a 3-turn 20% attack up and MP damage up. Like these demerits that she gives herself are actually really middling. Like they're really not that bad. They're not that much.
Next, Saber.
You want to talk about a unit
80%?
that I would have said was like B, maybe A, and then got a buff, and now I'm like he's A+.
Yeah.
That's Gawain.
That is the Escanor of the Fate universe.
That's Gawain.
Gawain the Rock Johnson. But yeah, no, that... Yeah.
His second skill got that buff that just... It completes him.
It went from Charisma E to Nightless Charisma B.
Right? Like, he went from a unit that needed a specific set of conditions to thrive to all of a sudden being like...
Who decided that? I'm a middling Saber? Who decided that?
Because, like, think about it, right? He had Charisma E, which is at
The
max
Rock.
like a 12% attack up.
Correct.
Then he gets a buff to get one of the highest attack ups for 3 turns, being 20% AoE, right? So now everybody gets a 20% AoE attack up, right? On top of his own 20% attack up that he gives himself, now being 40%. But he now gives himself Sunlit Battlefield for 1 turn, which then guarantees he gets that 3-turn 30% buff.
Someone pause. So the thing is though, so I was hearing, I was looking while I was playing. Obviously, I was looking at the chat and I seen you guys talking about like buffs and stuff like that, and certain like servers that need buffs or ones that did get buffs. So if a certain Saber, obviously I see like, cause they were saying like an A to B, now he's like an A+. So if a certain Saber just gets that one tiny buff on just one ACS, not even just like a full out buff on the character itself, but just like a little tiny buff to one of the skills, that literally can change, tilt them either going up or, well actually, why would they go down for buff? Anyway, that would be them going from one letter on the tier list to literally going from that to going like upwards on the tier list, right? That's actually pretty crazy, right? Because just like in fighting games, you get that buff to a character, not even just all the skills of the character, get like certain buffs on the character, and then now it's like this character was like mid or meh, and now they're like up there, upper echelon. It's crazy. Anyway, let's get back to it. So play.
Which now means that for 3 turns, he essentially has like 44 to almost 50% like Buster performance attack up on a 3 Buster like command code list.
Yep. It's pretty fucking good.
He will literally buff himself back and like to hell and back, slap you, and then you'll ask for another.
The strength is not coming out yet. I believe it's either this year or next year. But when it does come for NA, Gawain gets so much better. And I know a certain Soul Cora already loves herself some Gawain, especially according to the fan art. Next, Saber! Now, let's talk about Saber. Gilles de Rais.
He's a
Yeah, it sound pretty OD.
Let's put it next to Liz. Are you sure he's a C? Even with the fact that he has a non-damaging Noble Phantasm, but for whatever reason gives himself an MP damage up?
Well, that's where like it gets really confusing, you know? Like, right? Like, as a unit, if you actually look at him, he's not actually that bad. People just hyper-focus on his first skill being a military tactics, so a party-wide NP damage up, and his NP not being like a damaging NP. So they immediately correlate that as, oh, he gives himself an NP damage up, but doesn't do damage on his NP, right? But then you look at his NP, and it's a 50 to 100% attack up for 2 turns, and it's a crit star bomb depending on, you know, overcharge. But then you look at his skills, and he has a 5-turn 40% buster up. That is on a 5-turn cooldown at max rank. So you can essentially have permanent uptime with this skill. And by essentially, I mean you can have permanent uptime with this skill. And so, as a double buster, double arts, while also having golden rule, right? Hypothetically speaking, he has what he needs to succeed. So he's not really held back by his skills or his noble phantasm. He's held back by his stats and just a unit basis as coming out in year 1, right? There are just other units that just do single target damage better than him. And because he doesn't have an NP that does single target damage, he relies on his face cards. But we have Gawain, who face cards like a god, and we have Bedivere, whose neutral game is just better than Jeels, right? Like Jeels is like, if you look at him, you can see the framework of something that could have been great, but there was just not enough effort put into it. While in contrast, Liz had effort put into her, but she actively fights herself.
Shame. Truly shame. Next, Saber! Next up, we gotta talk about Lancelot.
I want to put him at A+.
I also want to put him at A+, alongside his brother Gawain in arms. Even if they didn't get along, you know.
Even if they didn't get along.
They did not. But no, when you put me on that strat of, hey, yo, what if you put Lancelot, Hans, and Jean
This wasn't executed?
in a team, and you just proc all of their crit star generations.
And you have all of them with some crit regen CEs. Just watch what happens. And it's like, oh, that's what happened. Saberlot is just really good. Like, he hasn't received any buffs, like, at all.
Imagine if
he hasn't gotten an NP strengthening, hasn't gotten a strengthening to any of his skills. So slowly he's kind of getting out damaged by some recent servants, which is to be expected because of, like, you know, modern day servants having, like, literally everything. His cards hit a fair amount of times. 4 times on his busters, twice on his arts, 3 times on his 1 quick, then his extra hits 5 times. His MP charge rate is really, really good.
Yeah, 83%.
His
That
star
sounds
absorption isn't actually higher than the average of Sabers. He just somehow draws more stars than anyone else. But, like, he has a flat 30% battery. Like, that battery does not change. Like, level 1, that's a 30% single target battery that he gives himself.
The only thing you change is the stars with it.
Which is a 20%, like, star bomb. Second skill, Eternal Arms Mastery. Everyone should know what that does, but if you don't, it's a star absorption, 3k to 6k%.
For 3 turns.
And then his third skill is he generates 5 to 15 crit stars for 3 turns, and a 30 to 50% crit damage up for 3 turns. Like, he does a lot of damage. He plays into himself very well, and then his Noble Phantasm is like that nice icing on the cake, right? He increases his own arts performance by 30% flat before Noble Phantasm. So he buffs himself, just like in terms of sheer damage, right before the Noble Phantasm goes off. Then his Noble Phantasm makes it so that for 5 turns, they will take either 1k or 3k more damage.
3
Depending
turns?
on overcharge,
which is
good.
Really nice, because instead of it being like a passive, like, percentage defense down, no, they're just gonna take this much more damage no matter what hits them. Right? Oh, you have like a 4-hit quick card? Oh, it's just gonna do flat 1k more damage. That's nice. Though, I have an argument for someone better. You already know who that is, but I
do. We're getting there too, fastly approaching. But for now, he's good where he's at. Next, Saber, the first welfare servant technically in this game. Saber Lily.
Oh, so dot damage. That's really good.
That's what I say.
I don't know if I want to say B or A.
Dilemma.
That's
I'm
a
thinking
good.
minimum.
That's a good thing to have on team.
She's definitely not C or D level. Especially because her MP damage actually does a lot of things. Maybe I will actually raise it because now she's actually in the friend point gotcha. I'm not sure if they took her out or what. But
No, they didn't, but she's like Ongra levels of rare.
yeah, that is true.
Right, so she's quote unquote 5-star, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. She has the 50% mana burst. She has the 20% party wide NP generation. But like, she needs a lot of help to get that NP to go off. She doesn't really offer the team a lot of things, but her NP does a lot of damage. But she's not like bad. She just doesn't have a lot going for her.
Right.
And I don't really want to put her below B because C and D I like thinking of as like, these are like objectively not great servants. But like,
So you can
really
get
have
her
a
in a
lot going
friend
for her.
summon?
Like even Bedivere, Chevalier,
Saber Lily?
Fran, Arthur, they have something going for them. They're just missing something to push them up. Saber Lily just is basic, and I think that's what holds her back.
And maybe it's just her skills.
Like she needs something.
Yeah, I think B then for that case. 'Cause I like her. She's fucking cute. She just needs some more help. Next, Saber! But we gotta talk about the Knight of Rebellion, Mordred.
A.
Definitely in that A category.
I wouldn't put her at A+ myself. I would keep her solid A. Like she has a battery, 30%. She has a 50% defense up on top of that, and it removes debuffs. It's a really loaded skill. That skill is incredibly loaded. Her third skill,
Does a lot.
Secret of Pedigree, does a lot. It is
That's a
incredibly
So basically, she
strong.
should be just mid
Right.
then. Yeah.
But she only has a 50% mana
It
burst,
sounds
right?
like
for
you're
one
discussing
turn.
the mid tier Saber.
And then her
Servant.
second skill pisses me off.
Is
Because
big.
I will die on this hill of I hate skills that are 3 times for 3 turns. I hate it when you limit it to the amount of hits that happen. Because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's at that point, it's either do the 1 turn or 3 turns. Don't try to be like, well, you know, maybe you want to spread it out over the turns. Like
That still doesn't make sense because, you know, that's what 3 turns is for. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, but we have to take into account when they're solo. Then turn it to 1 turn.
It's a 5-turn cooldown as well, so it wouldn't be too out of the ordinary for it to be 1 turn. Plus, the first one, the first part of that skill, which increases critical star absorption for Buster cards for 1 turn, is all 1 turn. So like, I still love her though. She's really good. I love her animations. Love the character. I would want to put her higher, but
Heck
My
no.
bias would be to put her at A+. But objectively, like, she's just not on that level, you know?
next, Saber. Next up, Shinmen Musashi.
Oh, easy. You
Yeah?
already know. Yep, there it is.
A+. People gonna be mad. What do you mean? Not EX? Sorry, Redacted is not EX.
Sorry, Data Lost is not EX.
But she is a really strong single target Saber who got a buff on top of all of it. Like, okay.
Her buff is both good and bad.
It's kind of niche in a way.
It's really niche.
Someone pause again. This is like so random, but like, what is the point of having like a skill that's like 3 times over 3 turns, and then what is the point of that? Like they were saying, like trying to spread it out. Is that really necessary instead of just? I don't know. It's like seems like it's pretty counterproductive to me. It's like, oh, I'm gonna have this limited amount for this skill, and then when I'm solo, it's kind of weird. It's kind of crazy. I don't know. It's something I was just thinking about when I was just talking about that. All right. Anyway, let's get back to it. So play.
Like, it's a type of niche that can have you think, all right, they're gonna add more of these types of enemies. So hypothetically speaking, you could look at it as like a form of like clairvoyance into the future of what to prepare for, but it also doesn't really add a lot because you don't.
Not even a question. Musashi
Yeah,
A plus.
but like ignoring that part, the fact that the damage gets increased.
Yeah, the damage
And
gets
the
increased, the
MP
MP
damage,
damage, right? Like, half of that buff is really good. It's the other half that I'm like, all right, that lowers it a little bit. in
Yeah,
my
the
opinion.
2/3 of the buff, good. That 1/3.
But like, she's still very solid. If you play this
Also,
game, you know
buffs
what
can
Musashi
be
does.
like kind of bad. I didn't know that. I didn't think
Worded
that.
as being
You-
one of
You know why she's one of the strongest single targets in the game. You know why she's strong. We all know why she's strong. But she's lacking that like wow factor of what like Nero Bride can do, right? Like there's just something missing from Musashi Saber that just would have pushed her into EX of like, yeah, no, begrudgingly, I would be like, yeah, no, you would be insane not to roll for Musashi, right? With Nero Bride's buff, I would literally tell you you're insane for not rolling for Nero Bride in like 4 or 5 months.
Next, Saber.
That 1/3.
She's a solid A. She's a solid A.
I mean, for me, 6 after her is the fact that she's one of the first servers that I know that's a guts, 3 guts. Kill her
Lasts
once.
for 5 turns.
Kill her again. Nope. Sorry, I'm still here.
Her third skill is really strong.
They push
Her
over
second
to
skill
the
is really strong.
EX
Her
top.
first skill now is really strong.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can farm with her, yes. I'm not saying you can't. She has a 30% battery. But she hits 1 time on her Noble Phantasm. So that's gonna really hamper your looping. So what does that mean? It means she's now a pseudo-tank sustained DPS. Right? She has a lot of HP. She has 2 different types of heals.
So the regular
and
Nero's
she has
A.
a guts. So she's gonna stay alive.
Yeah.
She's gonna be on the battlefield. She's gonna do damage. She's gonna keep doing damage because you can't kill her. That is
4 to
the
5
beauty
months?
of Nero. That is the incredible beauty of Nero Claudius 4-star Saber. She will just stay alive to do the damage you need her to do. She's not going to be flashy and incredibly in-your-face about it like Musashi or Gawain or Lancelot, which is why like she gets held back, because she doesn't have that insane pop-off ability. But the fact that she has all of this going for her just to stay on the battlefield, to be consistent, is why I would say she's A. Like, my bias, she's EX. She's Nero. I love Nero. Nero's, again, one of my top waifus of all time. But, like, you know, objectively speaking.
I say solid A.
Yeah.
100%. Next, Saber.
Now we have to make the hard choice. Now we gotta make the hard choice. Is she an A or is she an A plus, my man?
You already know she's A plus for me.
But is she?
She's gonna get the job done.
But is she? Is she though? No, you say she has to, but objectively speaking, is she?
That's because you really hate that when they turn to the second skill. But I argue that even with the not so great skill, it's the fact that it took her this long to get a buff.
Tanky stay alive to get the job done.
One of the best quick DPS, single target DPS in my opinion. Really solid.
Hits once on her Buster, 5 times on her Quick.
Hey, so I'm gonna pause right here. So, guys, is Nero one of the top waifus of all time for you guys, or is she just like a top waifu in the Fate universe for you guys, or is she not even one of the top waifus? Like, who would be your top waifu of all time? Let me know in the comments down below. Kind of curious on that. Is it from the Fate series or somewhere else? Let me know. But yeah, I didn't know that Nero Bride was gonna come out in 4 to 5 months. Nero Claudius is an A flat. So she's basically, it sounds like if you guys watch the NBA, it basically they were just describing basically Kawhi Leonard. Like she's like Nero's a superstar in her own right, but she's not flashy. She just goes ahead and just gets the job done. No flash in the game, no nothing like that. Just tanky, just get it done. Simple, easy. All right. So without further ado, let's get back into it. So play.
Right. She has a 1-turn steroid, a 1-turn star absorption, a 1-turn evade, but a 3-turn crit damage up. But her NP hasn't gotten a strengthening, so it's still year 1 scaling. Is that bad? Not particularly, no. But being a limited 5-star, you're likely to not have very many copies of her.
Nope. Not many
So her single target NP damage isn't going to be as good as somebody else. Right?
Of all Sabers, probably in this game actually.
No, she would be like top 50.
1.09.
She would be top 50.
There's some people that have MP charge attack that's higher than that.
Yeah.
Yo, Kiza?
Steno has a fucking 2.1.
Sido is the exception.
Steno has a 2.1, dude.
Pop on real
And
quick.
who's behind that?
Give me a second. I will look this up right
No,
now.
No, look it up.
2 hours later.
I'm gonna have to put her in A tier, and I'm not happy with it.
And I'm not happy.
Oh my god. Fine.
I mean, no, we
She-
could put
she-
her in A plus. if,
No,
like-
she's EX in my heart, but she definitely.
I mean,
needs
I would
something
never put her in EX.
I know
But,
you
like-
wouldn't, but it's EX in my heart. But I do understand.
Like,
I would
that.
put her at A, but like an argument I feel could be made for A plus because of her ability to loop back to back with like quit, like NP double quick because of that NP charge rate that she has.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Like the
The
fact that I
the only issue is that
Mhm.
she doesn't really have neutral game, you know?
can.
Like
She
it's
needs the
just-
battle
a
to
lot of
end
these-
quickly.
a lot of these servants have like the issue of neutral game. Like a lot of them do, especially considering like Okita's like base stats as well. Right? They're not the high. They're not. She does have some of the highest. She's like 27th for attack, but like
Yeah, this is
as a single target DPS, like that's really good. That's great, but you know, could be better. Could be like top 20, but she's not. She's top 30,
And
and
that's
so that really kind of sucks with her.
It sucks. I everything in my being.
I think that's
screaming
Okita,
at
though,
least A+,
if, like, based on
but
the picture.
She needs another. She needs another. She needs something
if her,
else.
I would be more alright with putting her A plus if her other cards hit more than once.
I'd be okay with putting her at A+ without feeling guilty or the fact that the comments will destroy me if she got above her second skill.
Like obviously Musashi's gonna do more because her cards just hit more. That's just the nature of like card hitting. So it's just it's one really unfortunate, and two, it's really not great
Year one
just for
servants.
Okita.
Okay, it is okay. Okay, I was like, is that Okita? It gotta be,
Next,
right?
Saber.